They wanted a bigger slice of the pie, but they just realized the pie is gone. New reports suggest WNBA players are privately panicking and begging for their old deals back after driving Caitlin Clark away caused a 65% revenue crash. Here is the leaked info the union doesn't want you to see. The image of a tearful locker room meeting in early 2026 is starting to leak out, and the vibe is far from the empowerment and equity we were promised. Just 48 hours ago, a veteran guard who requested anonymity posted a cryptic message on her Instagram stories saying, "We were led off a cliff by people who don't even play anymore." That post was scrubbed within minutes, but the screenshots are already circulating in every group chat from Indy to Vegas. This isn't just about a bad quarter of growth. This is a total systemic failure of a league that thought it was too big to fail because of one generation of stars. The league is trying to keep this timeline quiet, but we are tracking every deleted post. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you get the evidence before it is scrubbed. This is the investigation the mainstream media is too scared to touch because it involves the biggest names in the sport turning on each other in real time. The spark that lit this fire wasn't a missed shot or a bad referee call. It was the January 2026 deadline for the new collective bargaining agreement. For months, we heard the rallying cry of the union, led by faces like Breanna Stewart and Nneka Ogwumike. They were demanding 30% of the gross revenue, not the net profit after expenses like charter flights and high-end hotels were paid for, but 30% of every single dollar that touched the league. On the surface, it sounded like progress, but then the reality hit. According to leaked internal memos, the league countered with a warning that the WNBPA proposal would result in a $700 million loss. Instead of finding a middle ground, the veterans doubled down and the rhetoric turned toxic. On her podcast, Post Moves with Candace Parker, a prominent veteran suggested that the league was over-reliant on the Caitlin Clark effect and that the players were the ones who truly built the value. This dismissive attitude toward the rookie, who single-handedly brought in the $2.2 billion media deal, was the beginning of the end. When Caitlin Clark was essentially bullied in the media for her silence during the strike talks, she did the one thing the league feared most. She stopped being the face of the marketing. This isn't just a 2026 problem. This beef has roots that go all the way back to the 2023 NCAA championship game. We all remember the moment Angel Reese followed Caitlin Clark around the court with the ring finger gesture. At the time, we called it competitive fire. But in hindsight, it was the opening salvo of a culture war. The old guard and the new wave were never going to play nice. As Clark entered the league and started breaking every viewership record in history, the resentment in the locker rooms reached a fever pitch. On her own podcast, Unapologetically Angel, she admitted that the attention felt lopsided. This sentiment was echoed in the tunnel walks, where veterans would literally turn their backs or refuse to acknowledge the rookies. It wasn't just healthy competition, it was a calculated cold shoulder. By the time the 2026 CBA negotiations rolled around, the veterans were trying to use Clark's revenue to pay for their own massive raises, while simultaneously making her feel like an outsider. They wanted the Clark money without the Clark influence. The receipts are everywhere if you know where to look. During the most recent unrivaled 3-on-3 league draft, the body language spoke volumes. While Paige, Bueckers, and Caitlin Clark were seen laughing and coordinating their outfits, the veterans looked visibly tense. On a recent episode of A Touch More with Sue Bird, there was a telling moment where the conversation turned to the new salary cap. Sue Bird mentioned that the league's offer of a $1 million base salary was highly lucrative, but the push for gross revenue sharing could bankrupt the foundation. When the guest asked if the players understood the risk, there was a long silence that the producers didn't fully edit out. That silence is the sound of a league realizing they might have overplayed their hand. The current CBA is in a status quo period, which is just a fancy way of saying nobody knows if there will even be a 2026 season. Teams are allowed to send out qualifying offers, but as of this morning, not a single major free agent has signed a deal. Why? Because the money they are begging for is based on revenue that has dropped 65% since Clark stopped appearing in the promotional materials. Look at the social media activity from the last week. Angel Reese liked a tweet that said, "Some people don't realize how good they had it until the checks stop clearing." This was interpreted by many insiders as a direct shot at the union leadership, who pushed for the strike authorization. Then there is the physicality on the court. During the final games of the 2025 season, the hard fouls against Clark weren't just about basketball. They were messages sent from the locker room. One specific incident involving a veteran forward from the Mercury was caught on a hot mic. After a particularly rough screen, she was heard saying, "Get your own league then." This wasn't just trash talk. It was a reflection of the sentiment that the new stars were unwelcome guests in a house built by the vets. But now that the house is burning down, those same vets are the ones asking for the fire extinguisher. The 2026 revenue projections are a disaster. Without the sellout crowds that followed the Indiana Fever, the gate receipts have cratered. The charter flights that players fought so hard for are now being cited as the primary reason the league is in the red. In the high-stakes world of professional sports, the optics are everything. The union thought they could use the threat of a strike to force the league into a 50-50 like the NBA. But the NBA has 80 years of history and billions in global merchandise. The WNBA was in its first true growth spurt, and the players decided to pivot to a strike exactly when they should have been doubling down on the fan experience. Now the fans are checking out. The viewership for the recent unrivaled games has actually started to outpace the WNBA preseason hype because people want to see basketball without the labor drama. On a recent TikTok Live, Paige Bueckers was asked about her thoughts on the CBA, and her response was telling. She simply said, "I just want to play with my friends and let the business people handle the business." That is a far cry from the militant stance taken by the veteran executive committee. It shows a clear divide between the players who realize they're in the entertainment business and those who think they're in a political war. The physical toll of this drama is starting to show as well, with Nafisa Kalia out for 4 to 6 months due to ankle surgery and other stars dealing with the stress of the moratorium. The league looks fragile. The unrivaled league has become the safety net for the elite players, while the middle class of the WNBA is left wondering if they will have a job in May. This is where the begging comes in. We have seen reports of players calling their agents and asking if they can just accept the league's original offer from December. That offer included a $500,000 average salary, which would have been a massive win, but the union leadership said it wasn't enough. Now, with a 65% revenue crash on the horizon, that $500,000 offer looks like a pipe dream. The league's latest internal projections suggest the average salary might actually have to stay flat or even decrease to keep the franchises from folding entirely. The tragedy of the 2026 season is that it should have been a victory lap. Instead, it's an investigation into how greed and ego can dismantle a decade of progress in 6 months. The veterans like Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner are at the end of their careers, and they wanted one last massive payday to secure their legacies. They used the leverage provided by Clark and Reese to make demands that the business simply couldn't sustain. Now that Clark has stepped back from the spotlight and the revenue has followed her, the players are looking at their bank accounts and realizing that 30% of zero is still zero. The leaked tapes from the last union call are rumored to feature a heated exchange where a younger player yelled, "She didn't sign up to be a martyr for someone else's retirement fund." This is the civil war that the WNBA tried to hide behind the veil of sisterhood. As we look toward the start of the 2026 season, the prediction from those of us on the inside is grim. There will likely be a shortened season with a massive reduction in perks. The charter flights might be the first thing to go, the luxury hotels will be replaced by standard accommodations, and the salary cap will be a shadow of what was promised. The players who were posting about their worth and their value are now posting about how they missed the game and just want to get back on the court. It's a classic case of instant regret. They thought they were the ones holding the cards, but they didn't realize the cards were only worth something because the fans were watching. And when you treat your biggest draw like an enemy, the fans eventually stop watching. The next few weeks will be the most critical in the history of women's basketball. If a deal isn't made by the end of the moratorium, we could see a total collapse of the 2026 schedule. Arenas are already starting to give away dates to concerts and other events because they can't wait for the WNBA to figure out its labor issues. The players are realizing that the world doesn't stop just because they're on strike. In fact, the world is moving on to the next big thing. Whether that's the unrivaled league or just other sports, the WNBA is losing its grip on the cultural zeitgeist. The investigation continues, and we will be here to bring you every update as the receipts continue to drop. This has been a deep dive into the 2026 WNBA soap opera. If you want to see how the next chapter of this civil war unfolds, make sure to check out our upcoming video on why the unrivaled league is secretly plotting to replace the WNBA entirely. The evidence we found in the new league's bylaws will shock you.